Just jump into this press conference that she's having right now. It's been going on for about 30 minutes or so. It looks like it's going to wrap up, but just wanted to see where we're at right now as both Republican lawmakers and Democrat lawmakers are at a stalemate right now with another vote tonight. Apparently 5 Democrats, she's saying, need to cross over to get to those votes to 60, but things are deadlocked. So let's take a listen and see what she's saying right now.
In the White House today, if not for the Democrat shutdown. And they have a choice to change that. They have another opportunity tonight to do the right thing to reopen the government. Joey.
Judge over the weekend. Sorry, my second question. A federal judge over the weekend that the president had appointed to the bench in his first term in office basically argued that he could not deploy other states' National Guards to Portland. Basically said that it was untethered, his argument, to what is actually happening on the ground. Which local officials in Portland have said that the National Guard is needed there?
With all due respect to that judge, I think her opinion is untethered in reality and in the law. The president is using his authority as Commander-in-Chief, U.S. Code 12406, which clearly states that the president has the right to call up the National Guard in cases where he deems it's appropriate. And if you look at what has happened in Portland, Oregon, for more than 100 nights, I was talking to our law enforcement team about it this morning, for more than 100 days, night after night after night, the ICE facility has been really under siege by these anarchists outside. They have been disrespecting law enforcement. They've been inciting violence. We saw, again, a guillotine rolled out in front of this federal building. And so the president wants to ensure that our federal buildings and our assets are protected. And that's exactly what he's trying to do. And ultimately, in the case in Los Angeles, that judge ruled in the Ninth Circuit, that panel of judges ruled that those troops could remain and that the president was well within his authority to do so. So we are appealing that decision. As you know, we expect a hearing on it pretty quickly, and we're very confident in the president's legal authority to do this, and we're very confident we will win on the merits of the law.
But no local officials that you can point to that have said we need the National Guard? Because I spoke to the police chief of Portland last week. He said that the president's claims just don't match up with what's happening on the ground.
I would encourage you as a reporter to go on the ground and to take a look at it for yourself, because there's been many members of the press, not press in this room, but independent journalists, some of whom we'll be inviting to the White House very soon to share their stories, because they have been in the middle of these riots and they have witnessed the anarchy that is taking place night after night. It's on video. You should play it on your show. You have a great opportunity on prime time on CNN to show your audience. Yeah, but you're probably talking to partisan Democrat officials who are opposed to everything this president does. You should also ask the people who live in Portland. We've actually heard from many members of the community who have said that this is complete civil disobedience. It's a mess. It's been loud. It's been troubling for neighbors in the community who are just trying to live peacefully. And these people are not there to peacefully protest. They are there to cause mayhem and havoc.
Yeah, Caroline.
Stephen, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions. First, do you have a reaction to reports that thousands of Cuban troops are deployed alongside Russia fighting in Ukraine? And on a very different matter, the president last week floated in an interview with our colleague Daniel from One America a rebate for tariffs of up to $2,000 per person. Is that plan contingent on the Supreme Court's upcoming ruling on the legality of the tariffs? And is the White House preparing for legislation to make that happen?
Sure. On the first point, I have not seen that report, Stephen, but I'll check in with our national security team after this and we'll get you an update. To your second point about the tariff rebates, I think it's an idea that the president has discussed and floated with his team of advisors, but no decision has been firmly made at this point in time. Why don't we go to the back? Owen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
A few days ago, President Trump demanded Jay Jones in Virginia get out of the race for condoning political violence in a text message against a Republican politician a few years ago. He hasn't left the race. He hasn't dropped out. What's the president's reaction?
Well, as you know, I'm not at liberty to discuss political races from the podium. I think the president himself made his position very clear, and I think anyone could agree the messages that were sent by this Democrat nominee for Attorney General in Virginia are really shocking, alarming, and completely unacceptable. He was threatening to kill his opponent and his opponent's children, and that type of rhetoric has zero place in our country, and the president was absolutely right to condemn that.
One more, please.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. The Democrats have questioned and scrutinized the president's comments about using potentially the military American cities as training grounds for the military. And when you look at Portland, Chicago, local and state officials say that their local law enforcement is able to handle the situations, these protests on the ground. The president says that Portland is burning, using that as justification for the National Guard in Portland. But when you look here in Washington, D.C., the president just last week said it is now a completely safe city, and there are still National Guard members on the streets that are not involved in ICE activities. Can you provide the justification for the White House here in Washington, D.C., why the National Guard members continue to be out on the streets?
Because Washington, D.C. has invited the National Guard here. Why? Because the mayor is doing the right thing, unlike mayors in other cities like Portland, as Caitlin and others have pointed out, who refuse to see that there are positive results from when local law enforcement works with federal law enforcement to do the right thing on behalf of their citizens. And Washington, D.C. is no doubt a safer city right now, today, than it was a few months ago when President Trump started this initiative to make D.C. safe again. And the National Guard is still here because the president and the mayor agree that it's a good thing for the city. Just like you're seeing in Memphis, for instance. We'll have National Guard deployed to Memphis. We have federal agents who are on the ground working with state and local law enforcement. The state police in Tennessee are part of this effort. The local metropolitan police in Memphis are part of this effort. State and local law enforcement and federal law enforcement should be working together. And it's a shame that we see in some cities across the country that their mayors are just simply refusing to cooperate because they don't like Donald Trump. And that's what this boils down to. And I don't think any American would disagree that Chicago needs more law enforcement reinforcements, that they need more resources. Look at this headline from over the weekend. At least 30 people shot during the weekend in Democrat-run Chicago. 5 of them were killed in one weekend. This is completely unacceptable, and the president wants to make American cities safer, and he's willing to work with anyone to do it.
If the courts allow you to ultimately send in the National Guard into Chicago and Portland, do Democrats not have reason to be concerned that there are long-term plans by this administration to keep U.S. military or the National Guard in American cities, like what we're seeing here in Washington?
Why should they be concerned about the federal government offering help to make their cities a safer place? They should be concerned about this. They should be concerned about the fact that people in their cities right now are being gunned down every single night. And the president, all he's trying to do is fix it. And there has been a complete smear campaign by the Democrats and the media, quite frankly. I was reading Political Playbook this morning, one of the most inside the Beltway newsletters you can find. And you guys are framing this like the president wants to take over the American cities with the military. The president wants to help these local leaders who have been completely ineffective in securing their own cities. And we have already seen there's a positive formula for that. Look at Washington, D.C. The murder rate has declined significantly. Our streets are safer. People who live here feel safer. All of you in this room, I know you do, you just won't admit it. And it's a proven system that works, and the president wants to make America's cities safe again. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Michael.
Thank you, Caroline. 2 questions, if I may.
Because the mayor wants them. Michael.
These talks in Egypt, if Hamas does agree to relinquish power and give it up, cede power to this transitional technocratic government, if that does happen, would the Trump administration then recognize a Palestinian state?
Look, I don't want to get ahead of the technical talks right now, Michael. They're extremely sensitive. They're taking place, again, as we speak, and there's a lot of, there's many things to discuss, of course. This is, hopefully, we expect and we hope going to be one of the greatest peace deals this world has ever seen. And the Trump administration is working diligently and working very hard to get there. And as I said, Friday, all terms agreed. We have the Arab countries who are working with us. Of course, Israel has been incredible in cooperating with the president's plan and agreeing to it. And we're very hopeful, and we expect that to continue.
Carolyn, you tweeted about this over the weekend.
Thank you. I was going to you in the blue shirt and tie.
Oh, thank you,
yes,
Caroline.
You're welcome.
The Daily Mail. Today, the Supreme Court declined to hear Ghislaine Maxwell's appeal. Will Trump rule out granting her clemency? Is that something the White House is considering?
It's not something I've heard discussed, and we don't comment on clemency requests that may or may not have been made, but I'm certainly not tracking that one at this point in time.
Caroline.
Jordan, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. So we're talking about these radical groups in Portland and Chicago. I know the president has spoken about potentially going after George Soros with RICO charges and for funding all of this violence. Has there been any update on that? And also, is the administration looking into the other nonprofits, maybe taking away their 501c3 status for funding this violence? And then I have one more question.
Sure. The financial backing of these groups, particularly Antifa, is certainly something the administration is looking into aggressively. And the federal government has never really been mobilized or tasked with doing that. So we're kind of kickstarting that into gear. The FBI is working on it alongside the White House's Homeland Security Task Force. We have our intelligence community looking into this as well. And even the Secretary of Treasury is involved with these matters since they are financial in nature. And we will continue to get to the bottom of who is funding these organizations in this organized anarchy against our country and our government. It's a question the American people have been begging the answer for many years, and we're committed to uncovering it. And when we do, I'm sure you'll be one of the first people to know.
Separately,
Jonathan.
Caroline.
Oh, thank you. So Gaza, under the president's plan, is going to be governed by a transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts. Now, given how radicalized the Palestinian population is in Gaza and in the West Bank, can you offer some insight or guidance into who are some of these Palestinians that are going to be considered for leadership roles in Gaza, and where you're going to be finding them, and do you have any names?
We're not quite there yet, Jonathan. The president believes peace is possible in Gaza, and that's why he presented this detailed and comprehensive plan. The first step of that is securing a ceasefire and releasing the hostages, and then those conversations about ensuring a durable and lasting peace can continue. But what do you need to have peace in a region like Gaza that's been war-torn for far too long? You need security guarantees, and you need good governance. And so those will be two of the priorities that this administration is focused on.
If I may, the president has said he wants the government to reopen this week in a deal. What's going to happen by the end of the week if there's no deal? What's the White House prepared to do?
With no deal with what?
To reopen the government.
Look, as I said, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of pain inflicted. There already is on the American public, on our troops who are not being paid, again, on women and young children who depend on critical food assistance. We hate to see this. And in fact, the Office of Management and Budget is trying to do everything they can to find funds to get out the door for these vulnerable populations in our country. Again, we shouldn't be having to do that. The Democrats have a chance to change course tonight. I believe the vote's taking place at 6:30, and we urge Democrat senators to vote to reopen the government and to do the right thing. Thanks, guys.
All right, we were just hearing from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt talking about a variety of different topics, first including defending the administration bringing National Guard to different cities. This just as Illinois and Chicago filing a lawsuit just today aiming to stop President Donald Trump's administration from sending hundreds of National Guard troops to the city. Also, obviously touching on the shutdown because right now the Democrats and Republicans are at a stalemate over this funding bill. Once again, she just said, quote, if this does not pass tonight and reopen, it will, quote, a lot of pain will be inflicted. She's in essence also talking about, mass layoffs and things like that. The vote is happening tonight at 6:30 p.m. She's saying 5 Democrats need to cross over to be able to get that vote to 60 to pass. But right now things are looking tough. Both sides are at a stalemate right now. So we will get some more information about that in just a bit. But I want to change gears here just a little bit. As we also kind of see what's going on around. I do want to take a quick break because we do have some other things that are coming up that I want to share and show you. If you're just tuning in right now, Wisconsin Live Desk, on this side, lots going on behind me. We're just bringing you news that's going on that's affecting everybody from our area to states to the country, just giving you a live look at what's going on. So we have lots to touch on today. We also have Jason Calvi, who is going to be talking about possible red light cameras coming to Milwaukee. Several different things that we're going to touch on today. The mayor is going to be having a meeting later today. And also Senator Drake in support of that red light camera legislation. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Of course, Brewers, that's a big topic that's happening today as well as they're playing tonight. So we're just going to take a quick break, reset, and I will bring you more Wisconsin Live Desk after this break. Stay with us. And then from there, what do you want to do? Budget meetings, okay.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon. I'm Derica Williams here with the Wisconsin Live Desk. Thanks for tuning in. Whether it's on your mobile app, your phone, your TV, your Roku, whatever it is, thanks for tuning in. I wanted to show you a quick issue that's happening. It's a port fire. Let's just take this quick video right here. We're looking at the port of Los Angeles right now. Authorities have just gotten there. Apparently, there was a heavy lift crane that was on fire at the port of Los Angeles. Thankfully, no injuries are reported. One engine is on the scene and en route right now, so obviously that's going to hopefully be put out shortly. I'm trying to take a look at the video closely to see where they're focused on. But with this being at the port, it could have some detrimental effects. So we're just kind of keeping an eye on this to see if it develops into anything. And of course, we'll let you know. In the meantime, I would like to talk about what's happening today with the city, with the county of Milwaukee. Today you can have your voices heard. Lots of things are taking place later today. The city leaders want to hear your thoughts on Mayor Cavalier Johnson's budget for next year. So I do have some information to share with you. There's going to be a public hearing session at City Hall. So that's happening around 6:30 p.m. tonight. It's going to outline Johnson's priorities, including improving public safety and infrastructure. So this is coming as the city is facing a $100 million budget gap. Mayor Johnson's calling for increasing fees, tapping reserve funds, and, quote, departmental belt tightening. Now, all while, of course, continuing to focus on public safety and recruitment. Today's session is the first of two. The next one will be on October 18th. That's going to be happening at the new MLK Library. So that's going to be going on tonight. Also, you know, it's not just the city that's having a listening session tonight. County supervisors as well. So the county supervisors are also hosting their own town hall meeting on the county budget. So this is starting at 6 p.m. This is going to be happening at the Washington Park Urban Ecology Center. County Executive David Crowley has proposed transit cuts and about a $12 million property tax levy increase, doing that to help make up for that $46 million shortfall. So with that being said, there's also going to be two other sessions. If you can't make that one tonight, that is the 15th and the 27th. All right, so that's some city and county news of where you can get your voices heard. You know what else is going on? Let's take a look at this. The roof is open. Yes, the roof is open right now. Brewers Cubs game 2. I'm not sure if it's going to stay open. Today, Lisa and Steph were talking about rain tonight. But, you know, it's just been awesome the past couple of days and just the excitement in the area with the Brewers right now. So they're taking on the Cubs for game 2 tonight. Fans, of course, hoping the crew can carry out Saturday's magic over to tonight's game. That field was packed on Saturday with Brewers fans. Folks we spoke with say the energy was just so electric, and they're hoping that same vibe is happening tonight. I think it's going to be, especially for a night game too. Like, we're pretty pumped. So the Brewers really made a big statement over the weekend, securing that massive win over the Cubs Saturday. That final score was 9-3. So once again, they're going to hopefully keep that momentum going tonight as we face the Cubs. So that game was sold out on Saturday. But if you're looking to get in tonight, you may be in luck, but you're still going to have to pay a pretty penny to get in. All right, let's take a look at some of the ticket prices right now for Game 2. So right now on MLB.com, the cheapest spot is the 200 level at $100. So obviously, you know, nosebleeds, they're out. They're sold out. That was kind of the cheapest game, and you just like wanting to be in the building. Not even an option anymore. So anything closer than that 200 level is upwards of $200 to $400, and that is per person. Mind you, so if you're going with like a family of 4, there you have it. But remember, tickets, of course, are always available on resale websites. And of course, double check where you're getting your tickets from. if a deal seems to be too good to be true, it really is. If you're going to go to tonight's game, first pitch for Game 2 is at 8:08 p.m. sharp. And after that, the crew is off to Chicago for a Game 3 with the win tonight. That could actually be the deciding game of the series. So taking a look right now at some times. Game 2 tonight, 8:08. Brewers Cubs, Game 3 Wednesday, that's 4:08 p.m. But that's going to be at the Cubs. We do have a lot of watch parties though, so I feel like if you can't get in tonight to AmFam Field or even Wednesday, I believe we do. Let me see if I can find some of that info of some of the watch parties. Because I feel like that's one of the vibes that you want to be in, because everyone's going to be excited, jumping up and down, big screens. So the Brewers are actually hosting these watch parties. The first watch party is going to be Wednesday, so that's going to be this Wednesday at Davidson Park in Milwaukee. So that's going to be a good one. There's going to be obviously 135-inch TV screen. That's for live game viewing. Local food trucks and vendors, so that's going to be pretty cool too. There's going to be tailgate games, a DJ on site, and get this, Bernie Brewer, yes, Barrelman, the famous racing sausages, and 414s also going to be on site to greet and take photos with fans throughout the event. I kind of feel like they're bringing AmFam to you, which is even better, right? And at a fraction of the price, because guess what? This is free. Yes, admission is free and open to the public. I do advise you, though, maybe bring a lawn chair, a little something like that, a little blanket maybe, as you watch the game. Temperatures are changing. You know, we enjoyed some heat this past couple of days. The weekend, I think we set a record, I think Friday, at 87. So today, not as hot, obviously feeling like, I don't know, 77 I think is a high, but going to get cooler tonight and rain. Okay, so let's talk about Thursday night. If the Brewers can catch the action of Game 4, that's only if necessary. We're hoping to do this in 3, right, and just knock it out. A lot of the bars here are going to be having some fan giveaways. They're going to be having swag, obviously first come, first serve. Milwaukee's Leinenkugel Barrel Yard have something going on there. Jay Leinenkugel's Barrel Yard, throughout the state, Jordan's Big Ten Pub. So wherever you go, I think you're going to have a fun party for the Brewers. In a little bit, I do want to talk to Steph about if we are going to open up, or keep the roof open rather, or not. Just kind of seeing how fall has finally gotten to us. Let's take a quick look and see what's going on in the meantime. Behind me. Couple of things that I want to check into. I do believe that we're having Jason Calvi coming up in a short moment, so I'm just going to give him a chance to get set in. But lots going on today. Even this weekend I want to let you know about. Oh, today, before we go, if you guys don't mind, it's October 6th. So that means it's time for your Buddy Check 6. Here's our crew right here. We are ready to be your buddy. Detecting cancer really can save your life. So today is October 6th. Just a reminder for you or your buddy or anyone you know that you would like to share this with. Remind them to do their self-breast exam. It can be man or woman. Breast cancer really does affect everybody. So just a reminder to have your buddy or yourself do your self-breast exam, because the earlier you find cancer, the better your odds at beating it. You see Donovan, Nicola, Mary, Kim, myself, Ted. We can all be your buddies to remind you. We send you out something every 6th. So today is October 6th, just a reminder. Breast cancer, 1 in about 3 women yearly. That is the cancer that they are going to get. So I know my mother was affected. So many women are affected. This weekend, Mary's hosting it, but I know we're going to be there too for Making Strides. So get out there and show your support too, because I feel like this is the support, it's awareness, it's raising funds, it's research, it's all the things. So that's actually happening this Saturday, October 11th. And you can still register to take part in the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer Walk. This is such a big event and it's really huge. Every step you take, every dollar that you raise brings us closer to hopefully a world without breast cancer. the Milwaukee, well, not just the Milwaukee, but the American Cancer Society, rather, continues to fund groundbreaking research and cancer research, provides free information and services to women diagnosed with the disease, even access to mammograms for women who need them. And with a lot of changes right now happening with healthcare, this is so important. So if you guys can get out there, that's going to be great. That is October 11th on Saturday. The event kicks off, well, gates open and activities start at 8. So this is happening at Henry Meyer Festival Park. So just head to the South Gate on Milwaukee's lakefront. You can sign up now in advance. So if not, and you're unable to sign up in advance, registration does begin at 8. It's a non-competitive walk. You're just getting out there, you're talking with survivors, family members, supporters, just hearing stories. It's just really amazing and moving how this network is there for those who are dealing with breast cancer. So that is going to be at 10 a.m. and that's following the Survivor and Thriver photo. That's happening at 9:35 a.m. Then, of course, right after the opening ceremony at 9:40. So we will have security to kind of get in, but you can just park. Free parking is available, so don't even worry about that. There's going to be food for purchase at the site. The event route is pretty cool too, just kind of walking along the lakefront. So just please help join this movement and save lives. And that's, once again, Making Strides Against Breast Cancer Walk. So we'll have a tent out there. It'll just be a good day. So thanks for supporting that. And just go on our website too to sign up if you don't have Buddy Check 6. So, all right, now that we're back with that, I want to take a quick break. Just wanted to let you know about the breast cancer walk before we did take a break. And I'll check in with Jason and be right back. If you're just tuning in right now, thank you for watching Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm Derica Williams, and I'll be back in just a moment.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm Derica Williams. Taking a look to see what's going on behind me, and I think we have Chicago right up there. So I want to bring that up because obviously Chicago has been in the spotlight lately as it's dealing with those ICE protests. I'm going to put the volume up just a little bit in case. Okay, just checking in. I could just talk for a little bit until he comes out. But the police superintendent is obviously going to be talking about some of the recent events over the weekend. So just to kind of catch you up, Mayor Brandon Johnson today signed an executive order creating ICE-free zones across Chicago. So basically that's limiting the ability of the federal immigration agents to use city property and private businesses as staging area for enforcement actions. So what we do know so far, according to our sister station there, the order covers schools, libraries, parks, and other city-owned spaces. And then it allows private establishments to voluntarily participate in a citywide network, basically, that protects residents from ICE operations without a valid warrant. So each city property will have signage stating the following, and this is their quote: "The property is owned and or controlled by the city of Chicago. It may not be used for civil immigration enforcement, including as a staging area, processing location, or operations base." So Johnson basically said the measure is designed to safeguard Chicagoans' safety, dignity, and constitutional rights. So the order builds a broad civic shield that limits the reach of harmful enforcement practices, according to Johnson. He says it's also strengthening neighborhood solidarity, and then it reaffirms Chicago's roles as a welcoming city. He also goes on to say, they can't allow the rampage throughout the city with no checks or balances, claiming no one is above the law. He said the city will continue to monitor federal operations and also may take further steps if ICE escalates its enforcement activities. So basically, he also framed this move as a defense of due process and civil liberties, just really emphasizing that residents should not live in fear or intimidation or even excessive force from federal authorities. So this announcement is coming after a high-profile ICE action in Chicago. So basically the past week, there were some raids in South Shore, confrontations with residents, and also the detention of elected officials with Johnson. Well, that's what he's describing as aggressive and unlawful. So as we're waiting for this to come up, I do want to go to Jason in just a short minute, in a couple minutes, but I'm just going to give this a couple more seconds to see what's happening right now. Once again, this is off the heels as, the lawsuit also came about today. So we're waiting for that update. I'm going to check on Jason really quickly because it seems like we're getting some more information. Hey, Delaney, I'm going to talk to Jason really quickly for a second as we wait for the Chicago Police Superintendent to speak to the media. Let me switch gears over here for a quick second. All right, we got our Jason Calvi right there in the booth, and I'm just going to raise his mic in a second. Jason, thanks for being here with us. All right. Jason Calvi, good morning, good afternoon now. Yeah, we can hear you. Thanks for taking time with us. Okay. I just wanted to get a little overview of what you're covering today with these red light cameras, the legislation, and what's next, if you don't mind sharing with us what you have so far.
Hey, Derica. Well, we'll be able to actually hear all about this bill from the sponsor of the bill in the Senate. I'll introduce her, Senator Dora Drake. She represents Milwaukee, and she's in the state Senate now. This bill has been introduced, or this proposal, again and again and again over the years. This time's different, though. You're finally getting a hearing. This is the first time it's gotten a hearing.
Yes, and I'm so excited. Is because, one, we already know that we have the highest rates of traffic incidents, not just in the 4th Senate District, but it's deadly, and people are concerned and scared. And the main purpose of this piece of legislation is to ensure that there's fairness, that there's accountability, and that we're promoting safety. And so I'm really excited that we were able to make this a bipartisan effort. And the hearing is brought here to Milwaukee, which is going to be at the Summerfest grounds. So I want everyone to come and share your story on why we need these safety cameras to ensure that, one, people that are bad actors are held accountable, but that there's also accountability measures to ensure that there's transparency throughout the whole process of cameras, who's using them, and promoting safety.
One of the things that this bill does is it would allow for speed cameras. So if you're speeding and you go over a certain limit, over the speed limit, you'll be mailed into your mailbox, you'll receive a ticket. The other one is a red light camera. So it allows for both red light and speed cameras. Some people listening might say, well, this is just the city trying to get some more money. It's a cash grab, they might say, some opponents of this bill.
And that's completely false. I mean, to your point, these speed safety cameras will only activate if you're speeding over 15 miles an hour first and foremost, and they're only reading your license plate, right? And so we've set up parameters so we took concerns of not just what the city has been doing, but also some of our local advocacy groups on issues of if this is a cash cow. It is not. Because in the piece of legislation, it gives the city the authority to create the framework of what that looks like. So that would be on the Common Council and the mayor to determine that framework. And then the revenue that's generated can be used for safety programs, law enforcement, or traffic infrastructure. And from those measures, within 5 years, there will be a report that's available to the public, so that way the state legislator and people of the public can see how effective this is addressing public safety, as well as ensuring of what next steps we can be doing to ensure better outcomes.
So, Derica, the money that's gained from these tickets that would be sent in the mail would be used, this legislation requires that they be used for certain projects, including infrastructure, so that'd be like those bump outs. It would be also used for traffic enforcement. So all of the money that comes into the city, if this becomes a state law, the state law needs to change, though, because in order to allow for cameras, the state law does not allow that right now to have these traffic safety cameras. That would allow for red light cameras and speed cameras. Right now, that's not allowed per Wisconsin law, so that's why the state senator is introducing a bill to change that to allow Milwaukee then to have an ordinance that would allow for these. Has to change state law. It's been a long process. It's been in process for, I believe, more than a decade. I'll have to check the dates on that, Derica. But it's been introduced year after year after year. It's never once, as far as I can tell, received a hearing. This is different. Tomorrow at the Summerfest grounds, there will be the first hearing on this bill, so you can consider to step forward for proponents like Senator Dora Drake.
Absolutely. And again, the Safe Road Saves Lives Act is just that. There should be no reason why people are afraid to walk down the street because they're nervous of getting hit. We've lost too many deaths, and within low impoverished areas, the likely rate of black residents are killed, I think, 3 times more likely than white residents because of reckless driving. It needs to stop. And as a state, we can do our part by ensuring our local government has the tools that they need to address these issues. And I really do think that with this piece of legislation, we've ensured that there's a public campaign component of information of when these cameras would be implemented. We're working with law enforcement in the city to ensure that they have their tools. And again, measures where the public can look into how this data is being generated in real time, because our ultimate goal is to save lives.
I told you some of the opponents are going to bring up the money issue, which we just talked about. Another issue that opponents will have is they feel like this is not actually going to protect people's lives, that they say the best way to crack down on it is not to send a ticket in the mail, which can be ignored, but to have police officers on the streets patrolling.
And that is ridiculous, if I can be frank. It's because not only are we dealing with reckless driving, we're dealing with gun violence. And the problem is, if you had every officer posted at every intersection, it would not address the needs that are dealing with it, because you have our officers that are dealing with domestic violence, gun violence, and some of the most heinous crimes. And so to ensure that we are actually putting the best access to resources that's most effective, give them the tools so now they don't have to use their agency and their resources on traffic, right? And so to say that we do all those things just doesn't make sense. Give them the tools to ensure that they can adequately address the issues from reckless driving to gun violence, domestic violence, and so much more.
When you look at this particular proposal, and it's going to have that hearing tomorrow at the Summerfest grounds, people are going to be coming out, some of the victims of reckless driving in Milwaukee are going to come out speaking and sharing their heartbreaking stories of loss. You're going to hear from maybe some of the senators who are going to bring up some of the issues opposed to this bill. At the end of the day, these cameras would be set up. Do we know, have you looked at what the estimates are for the cost of these programs in other cities like Chicago or in Maryland that have had some of these cameras before?
Not that I'm aware of. I do know that Vision Zero, which is within the department of the city, has been really diligent in looking at all different models across the country and different cities and what works best. And again, we're just trying to ensure that we even give them a framework to figure it out, because right now our city can't create any type of framework unless they get the state law to allow them to do so.
It'll be interesting to see, because Governor Tony Evers has talked about his desire to pass some bipartisan pieces of legislation before he wraps up. He's got another year left in the governor's office. It's not like but he's not running for re-election, so he feels like maybe he can get some things done. I'm wondering if there's some way to negotiate with Republicans who might be opposed to this to give them something that they might want, and Democrats here in Milwaukee that are the lead sponsors of this historically, something that they want. So is there any sort of deal making that you think can happen behind the scenes to get this past the finish line?
I think that's to be determined. I mean, like I said, I was really excited when Senator Tomczyk agreed to be a lead on this piece of legislation. So for the fact that it's already bipartisan is a huge step because we haven't even got that far in years past. But we'll see. I think hearing the testimonies from everyday residents in Milwaukee will not only change, hopefully, people's perspectives of how important this legislation is, but also saying that there's another way to be smart about public safety. And so again, that's why I urge everyone to use your voice, your story, and your advocacy to come out and show out at the hearing tomorrow.
Okay, Senator Dora Drake, Milwaukee, if you're for this bill, if it sounds like a good piece of legislation, if you're against it, you're welcome. You're welcome to the hearing tomorrow. It's at Summerfest grounds. It starts at 11. You're going to hear from people like Senator Dora Drake. You're going to hear from people like Senator Van Wanggaard, who in the past has been opposed to this. FOX6 News. Derica?
All right, Jason, thank you very much. We appreciate that interview right now. I was just looking at some of the details from other states. Money aside, naysayers aside, some of the polls, they said this is in about 29 other states that's allowing them. Some of the numbers are showing that it reduced all crashes by 54%, injury crashes by 47%. Obviously, I know the folks that want that tool here, it goes along with the Vision Zero City with the target of 2037 eliminating traffic deaths. So it also seems to be a lot of public support in our area. So I guess we'll see what happens tomorrow as we hear from both sides. As you said, both sides hopefully can come together for a bipartisan law with this.
Yeah, we'll see exactly what happens. I can tell you that it hasn't moved in the past. It's been introduced, but this time's different in that A, there's a public hearing, and B, there's bipartisan support. So it's being introduced by Republicans and Democrats in both chambers. I believe this is the first time that in both chambers you've had a Republican and a Democrat co-sponsoring this bill. Senator Dora Drake's shaking her head there in agreement. So yeah, first time it's had bipartisan support in both chambers, first time it's getting a public hearing. So it is a step forward for supporters. And as they would probably say, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but sometimes these things take time to get the full support behind them. So this is one step forward for people like Senator Drake who really want to see traffic cameras here in Milwaukee.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jason Calvi, thank you very much. Tell Senator Drake thanks for taking out some time with us as well.
Thanks for your time, Senator.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Derica.
Thanks. And we'll hear more from Jason a little later if you guys want to watch Fox Local during 4, 5, and 6. I do want to take a quick break. We do have some other things to share with you on Wisconsin Live, Des, before I get out of here. So make sure.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Right now it's 1:16 and I feel like everyone's just kind of counting down to 8:08 when the Brewers play. I do want to bring in Steph real quick. So Steph, you are talking about a little bit of rain tonight. So the roof at American Family Field was open earlier. Now it's closed. I thought they were going to wait a little bit longer, but I don't know. What are we looking at in terms of like when things are moving in tonight?
Yeah, I do think later this evening we'll have some showers and maybe even some thunderstorms in the area. We're fine for now. In fact, I think we still have several dry hours here in the Milwaukee area. It may not be until closer to 5 or even 6 o'clock that we start to see some showers across the area. They'll likely start a bit more spotty. But yeah, you can see that the roof has closed at American Family Field, likely in anticipation of number one, the drop in temperatures, but number two, that chance for some rain. So for tailgating especially, but even throughout the duration of the game, there is at least a chance for some showers and thunderstorms. So just keep that in mind if you are planning to tailgate later on tonight. Maybe bring that pop-up tent or the umbrellas. You may even have to do some of it in the car. I know I'm guilty of having to do that once or twice in my tailgating years. Or you might just want to head straight into the park and more so enjoy that excitement. Notice though that temperatures will be cooler in the 60s. So it's not the worst thing in the world that the roof will likely be closed for game time. It's not going to be that sweltering heat, but it will likely be a little bit more humid. But just plan ahead. You guys all know what to expect when that roof is closed at American Family Field. We're actually right now starting to see cloud cover move into the rest of southeast Wisconsin. Most of the morning it's been limited to those northern communities, and you can see some light spotty showers out west where they've been much of the day. But now that we've got this front kind of sitting over our area, it is going to allow all of the development out west in Iowa and across southwestern Wisconsin to move up towards the northeast. I think a lot of this, again, is probably going to favor northern and northwestern communities, which is why Milwaukee still has some dry time. But keep in mind, once this front actually passes and clears our area later on this evening, that will allow for the rain along it to finally slide eastward. So we've got some time. It's just not favorable for the Brewers and Cubs game later on today. And even more impactful, you know, this isn't going to be a huge rainmaker in general. More impactful is going to be that temperature drop, because you can see out ahead of that front, we are still warm. It's 77 degrees at the station right now, still in the 70s in Milwaukee, but behind this front, including in our northwestern communities, temperatures are struggling to stay in the 60s. So it is pretty warm out there right now in Milwaukee, but we have big changes ahead going forward today. Now, those of you planning on tailgating, I figured I might as well just show you sky vision so you have an easier way to plan. This is 4 o'clock, so you can see at least some spotty areas of rain in the area. It may not be directly towards Milwaukee, but notice after that, especially, you know, what game time beginning around 8 o'clock and then afterwards, I think that's when we do see some of that steadier rain pushing its way on through. So maybe a few showers and storms this evening, but the better chance will be overnight tonight. Regardless, Derica, I do think we're looking at that roof closed and potentially impacting tailgating. And now temperatures the rest of the week, by the way, they're going to stay in the 60s because of this incoming front. So this really is going to change up this very dry and very warm pattern. We're coming off of 3 straight days in the 80s, including a record high temperature on Friday that was 87 degrees, which is just incredible. So the rest of this upcoming week, temperatures will hang out in the 60s. So I think we have a nice change of weather ahead of us. It's just the rain itself not coming at the greatest time, considering we want that roof open at American Family Field. But we'll see. Wednesday's game, I believe Wednesday, at the Cubs looks just fine. Sunshine and comfy conditions.
Okay, good. Because you know we're going to be partying during that too.
Exactly. They don't have the luxury of the roof, so
exactly.
We need the better weather down there.
Exactly. All right, Steph, thanks again. But you know what? Rain or not, we needed it. Like you said, we've kind of enjoyed these summer days the past, I would say, a couple of weeks, actually. We had a little stretch, like you said, so we can deal with a little bit of rain. It's okay. Now it's finally starting to feel like fall. I think we're all kind of ready, just a little bit.
And it looks like this will continue into the weekend, too. So if you're already looking ahead to maybe some actual fall feeling for apple picking and pumpkin patches, this weekend looks lovely.
Beautiful. All right. Thanks again, Steph.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break right now, and we'll be right back.
Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to Wisconsin Live Desk. I'm Derica Williams. Thanks for hanging out with me for the past almost hour or so. We have a lot going on still. I had mentioned earlier the police superintendent out of Chicago is about to, well, he's been talking, so I want to kind of get back into there about those weekend events. So let's take a quick listen to see what he is saying.
We will see another event like we saw Saturday. We cannot move like this in this city. If we want to keep the peace in this city, we need to be smart about how we do things. And attacking law enforcement under any circumstances is not safe for anyone. Because as I've said before, a member of law enforcement who cannot protect himself, herself, cannot protect anyone else. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we protect ourselves and each other so that we can protect everyone else in this city. If for any reason a crime is being committed, an ICE agent, state, local police officers, if it involves law enforcement, we are going to show up. And whatever's going on there, we're going to work to stop it, put an end to it, calm the situation down. And if we need to stay there to continue to keep the situation calm, we will do exactly that. So I want to be clear about one of the things that we're going to do now. What we're going to do, and this is my decision because I need to be firm on this. When we show up to a scene and a crowd gathers, CPD is going to step out there. We're going to make sure that we maintain that scene and we keep people calm. This is our city, and we're going to make sure that we bring some type of calm or resolution to whatever's going on at that scene. We will be there. Now, when we look at what has happened, there are some things that we can work on. Because whenever you see something for the first time and you respond to it, there's always something that you can do better. That's what we do. And that's why we're having an after action about what happened so that we can prepare if something like this happens again.
If you're just tuning in right now, we are hearing the Chicago police on these ICE protests. This is on the heels of Mayor Brandon Johnson today signing an executive order creating ICE-free zones across Chicago. This is huge, so we're just going to listen into this a little bit on the other side of the break. And after this, I'm going to have my co-worker, Haley Spittler, follow up with this. So just wanted to give you
and when it's over, there are some things that I'm probably going to touch on if we don't get to them with the questions. So go ahead.
Okay, we'll start here. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Madison with Black Club Chicago. Superintendent, when you said there were 27 agents affected by the chemical agents used, can you expand on that? What do you mean by these officers were affected?
Well, thanks for that question, Madison. Our officers were out there. There were chemical agents dropped. Our officers were pulled from other locations to go over there. On Saturday, we had multiple events going on, including a large protest in the downtown area. So in order to help out at this location, we pulled officers from other places. They did not have the equipment to fight off a chemical agent, and they were affected by it. Were there any major injuries? No. Our officers are resilient and tough, and they were actually pretty tough on the scene. And but we made sure that it was documented just in case they had some after effects from it. We just want to make sure that our officers are safe. So those officers are doing good, and then thank you for the question, for asking.
Sarah Schulte with ABC7. Good afternoon, Superintendent. At any time, maybe you can clear this up too, at any time on Saturday were CPD officers told by dispatchers to stand down?
Well, I don't know about them being told by dispatchers. There was some communication between boots on the ground, a supervisor, and the chief of patrol. So there was some communication by phone. There was something that was put out there that there was an internal message that came from the chief of patrol. That is absolutely not true. There is no internal message. There was a phone conversation. I'm not sure until we get to our after action, all of the exact language that was there. But I have had a conversation with the Chief of Patrol, who was concerned about officers showing up on a scene. The Chief of Patrol at that time had no information that anyone was in danger. And let me just be clear about one other thing when it comes to these federal agents. These federal agents can handle themselves, all right? We've been out there and we've seen it. Now, that doesn't mean that we're going to leave them because we know that they can handle themselves. We need to make sure that we have our officers and enough of them to respond to a scene if they are being surrounded. So were they told to stand down? Our officers were not told to stand down. Our officers were out there throughout the entire event. I would never tell our officers to stand down, because if our officers were in trouble and we needed help from other officers, I would expect those officers to step in and help us. And it's the same thing that we do on our side. When someone is in trouble, we're going to step in. So to get a little more information about that, we'll know by tomorrow what that exact conversation was.
Superintendent, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. JC Navarrete, NBC Chicago. Going off the point here, damned if you do, damned if you don't, as you mentioned. How do you toe that line between showing up and providing backup for a fellow officer who may be in need, but not helping them and execute their orders that are, of course, from a federal level? How do you toe that line between both of those?
Doing the right thing, showing up on the scene, doing the right thing, preparing for the backlash, the rumors, the things that people write and say, the things that people accuse you of. Officers deal with this on a regular basis. And this is why wellness for officers is so important, because this is the type of thing that an officer has to go home and kind of decompress from, right? You show up to a job, you know you're there to make sure that people are safe. And if there are immigration officers there, they're now being accused of enforcing immigration. They now become the subject of an investigation. They don't know how that investigation is going to unfold. But on my end, it's my responsibility to explain these situations. It's my responsibility to take that off of the backs of my officers, that when they go there and do the right thing, that they can be certain that their superintendent is going to stand up for them for doing what they're supposed to do and doing the job the right way, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Hi, Superintendent Sarah Maki, CBS.
Hi, sir.
This is, I guess, part clarification, part question. I think you mentioned you met the day before on how we're going to work this out. Was that a meeting on Friday with federal partners?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if you understood what I was saying.
Yeah, I don't think I did. So I just wanted to clarify. Have you met, I think you mentioned you met the day before to talk about how we were going to work this out.
No. So I actually have contact with federal agents. And the reason that I talk to them is because when we have a situation that's volatile, that could blow up, that could turn into a full-blown riot, we have to have this communication. Because if we're going to keep the peace and we're going to keep this city as safe as we can possibly keep it, we need to have that communication. The rules of engagement for federal agents and the rules of engagement for CPD are completely different. There are things that these agents do that we don't do here in the city. So we need to make sure that we have an understanding of how we're going to go about keeping the peace at a scene when a crime has been committed, how we're going to stop violence if that's going to happen. And I had what was a very fruitful conversation that stopped Saturday from ending in a riot-like situation. And we're going to continue to do that.
Can you elaborate on what those strategies were then that prevented maybe things happening worse?
I won't go into too much with that, but what I will say is this. having a conversation about our officers going in, taking over the front line, making sure that we're standing out in front of these protesters so that they can then move to the inner perimeter and do what they needed to do to maintain that crime scene, get that crime scene taken care of as soon as possible, get them out of there as soon as possible. That brings down the boiling point. So if we're working to make sure that we're keeping the peace, this has nothing to do with immigration. It has to do with keeping the peace in our city and keeping calm.
Hi, Superintendent Sophie with the Sun-Times.
Hi,
I don't know
Sophie.
if you could talk a little bit more about, we're going to be involved in scenes like this now. Will it look different from how it looked Saturday? Did this federal leadership you spoke with have anything to say about those 27 agents who were, affected by chemical gas?
Oh, absolutely. He was extremely concerned about it. We are going to have further conversations about it. He was also appreciative of the fact that we came in, stepped in, and he was the first to say that this could have turned into a full-blown riot, and it didn't. So CPD, again, just can never say enough about how proud I am of those officers going in, being converged on like that, stepping in, and making sure that they kept the peace there.
Brandon with WBBM News Radio. I think during the DNC, you kind of showed and ushered in what looked like a new era of crowd control and how that might look like successful crowd control. Are you going to be utilizing any of those techniques that were learned and trained for during the DNC? And the second part of this is when you're doing crowd control around these federal agents. Will federal agents then be allowed to join in, and would the techniques like we see in Broadview that are being used, or other gas being dispersed throughout the city, are those going to be included into your crowd control techniques?
No, because that and let me just go back to your first question, and it's a great one, and thank you for that. Our officers are trained, and we continue that training just in case we have other civil unrest or protests that are going on, First Amendment activity. And our officers are very well trained, as you said. They'll show up on the scene and they'll utilize that training. Depending on the size of the crowd, things of that nature, tactics and techniques could change based on that. However, when they show up, all of the techniques, tactics that they've learned, that's what we'll be utilizing in these situations to diffuse situations and to keep things calm. When it comes to deployments of chemical agents and things of that nature, again, the federal law enforcement, they have a different probably training around it. They have different rules of engagement. So when they deploy based on their tactics and what their rules are. When we take control of a scene, we will have direct contact, communication with them so that they understand that we're going to cover that front line, so that it will be unnecessary to use these chemical agents at this time, because we'll be in front, we'll make sure that we keep these things covered.
Omar Jimenez, CNN. Good to see you.
Hey, how's it going?
Alrighty, if you are just joining us, we've been listening in on this press conference happening right now in Chicago. That's the Chicago Police Superintendent at the podium speaking about these ICE protests. It's kind of known as Midway Blitz, what's happening right now in Chicago, where several ICE agents have come into the city. And since they've started this immigration crackdown, we know more than 1,000 immigrants have been arrested in Chicago, which has also led to a lot of protests. And when that protests have started, we've seen some of these agents bring out helicopters and deploy different chemical agents. And obviously right now, Chicago's mayor, as well as their Illinois governor, are very much opposed to the Trump administration coming in, whether that be the National Guard, whether that be these ICE agents. So we've heard kind of their ideas of how they're going to respond to all of this. We know earlier today, the Chicago mayor actually created what he's calling ICE-free zones. It's an executive order that he signed that's going to block federal agents from city property. We've also seen the mayor of the city where the ICE facility is now instill a curfew, hoping to kind of curb some of these protests and create less violent environment right now in Chicago. Obviously a lot going on right there in the city as well with just the National Guard today. We've seen the city and the state now come up with a lawsuit to stop the National Guard from coming to the city, something that Trump has threatened to do for many months now. So a lot to follow when it comes to Chicago, as well as Illinois, as well as the Trump administration. We'll be sure to keep you updated on the latest that here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. But I am taking over now for Derica. I'm Haley. I'll be here with you until 2:30. Then Ted Perry will be joining us with an extra long edition of the Wisconsin Live Desk as we get you ready for Game 2 of the NLDS. Cubs and Brewers playing again tonight at AmFam. I do just have a couple other national headlines that I want to walk you through really quickly. We're going to take a live look. This is actually in Jerusalem, where tomorrow in Israel will mark the 2-year anniversary since the Hamas attack that started now the Israel-Hamas, or sometimes referred to as the Israel-Gaza war. But a very important day actually in Egypt, as we have learned that leaders of Israel as well as Hamas have been meeting, hoping to come to an agreement to have a ceasefire in this war. We know last week the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was at the White House meeting with President Trump, where we learned that President Trump kind of came up with a ceasefire deal that Israel had agreed to, and we waited for Hamas to potentially agree to it. So far, they have not, at least publicly, agreed to that ceasefire deal that President Trump had come up with. But we do know, again, that both parties were in Egypt today working to come to some sort of a resolution. A big part of that deal would be the dismemberment of Hamas, meaning they can no longer be a group. A big kind of question mark as part of that deal is what exactly would happen to Palestine as far as who would rule it, who would govern it. Obviously, Israel wants to be in charge of Palestine, whereas Palestine wants to be their own state. So there's still a lot of questions with that ceasefire deal, but right now we're still learning to even know if an agreement has been reached. Again, we know they're meeting in Egypt, and we'll of course provide any updates for you that come out of that. We're also going to take a live look here. This is DC. We don't have a live look of the Supreme Court, or I would show you that, which right now is actually under some construction. But the Supreme Court just started a new term this morning, and within minutes, really, of the justices being backed, we did learn kind of the first big decision by the justices, which is that they have rejected the appeal of Ghislaine Maxwell, which, if that name sounds familiar to you, this is the former girlfriend of Jeffrey Epstein. So Ghislaine Maxwell is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence because she was convicted for her role in recruiting and grooming girls who were then sexually abused by Jeffrey Epstein. Obviously, in the last months, we've seen several calls for the Epstein files to be released. We've also seen several calls that there be no leniency shown to Ghislaine Maxwell. Her attorneys argued that there was a deal reached back in 2007 that protected any co-conspirators of Jeffrey Epstein from being convicted, from facing charges. But again, the justices today said they will not hear an appeal. They rejected that request. They didn't further say anything more. They didn't explain their reasoning, but that is protocol. They usually don't elaborate, but the big news coming out right there again was just the rejection of the appeal. So her 20-year sentence will continue, and she will remain behind bars. She will not be getting a new trial. So she does remain found guilty of that crime. So there's a lot of big cases on the docket this term for the Supreme Court. So, of course, we will continue to monitor all the decisions that the justices make, as well as just the different cases that they hear, and bring you any updates here on the Wisconsin Live Desk and Fox Local. Continuing with a live look, let's head out to AmFam, right? That's where everyone really wants to be today. Obviously, the Brewers taking on the Cubs after... I'm a Chicago Cubs fan, but we got to just admit, they dominated the Cubs on Saturday. It was a very decisive victory for Game 1 of the NLDS. But you can see there, the roof is closed. It's probably going to stay closed for the rest of the afternoon and evening. We have the potential for some rain, and we also have some fall temperatures. So we're going to take a quick break, but then we are going to get another check of your forecast from our very own weather expert, Stephanie. So make sure and stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Time check for you is 1:46 this Monday afternoon. I keep wanting to say that it's not Monday, but it is Monday. But we're going to have a good day and a good evening because the Brewers, they are playing today, as are the Cubs, which is my team. But I will be happy to really pump up the Brewers here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Stephanie, if people are heading out to the game today, what can we expect? I think the roof's going to stay closed.
I do think the roof is going to stay closed, but big difference in temperatures, in forecast as a whole compared to Saturday. So if you are at Saturday's game, you know how hot it was, tailgating as well as in the game itself. But today's looking very different. So game time is 8:08, so evening tailgating. We very well could have some showers and thunderstorms in the vicinity for that. And temperatures are going to be dropping as well. Temperatures look lovely in the 60s, but again, because of that chance for rain, the roof is likely going to stay closed from here. In fact, that's kind of your forecast for the remainder of your evening hours. We're starting to see a few pop-ups in spots. I think there will still be dry time for tailgating, but some of these scattered showers and thunderstorms will likely be starting around that time. So if you are tailgating, plan on maybe the pop-up tent if you're able, or the umbrellas, or just go into, AmFam a little early and enjoy all that excitement. Here's what we have right now. A lot of spots still had sunshine this morning, but the clouds are thickening up even in the Milwaukee area. We've got one little pop-up south of Janesville, and then pushing towards the south, we've got a few more developing across northern Illinois. This one cell just tracking right over 88 there if you're familiar with that area. So now that we're starting to see a few of these pop-ups in northern Illinois, number one, I anticipate these moving northward from here, so maybe clipping some of Racine and Kenosha County, but then also seeing more pop-ups in the next couple of hours. So some of these isolated to scattered showers or storms will be possible going forward this afternoon. I think we have a better chance later this evening and overnight for rain. This frontal boundary is actually stalled across southeast Wisconsin right now, so out ahead of it, we still have a really nice afternoon, just not as much sunshine. Behind it, Fond du Lac, Dodge, Sheboygan counties, you guys are significantly cooler this morning, or this midday, I should say, and will stay that way through the remainder of the afternoon and evening. Behind the front, there is more rain. A lot of this is going to track northeast of us, but we'll see more development across Iowa. And as this front actually clears our area, it will allow the rain to finally move in our direction. Now, we will gladly take the rain. Today, I believe, is day 13 of dry weather in southern Wisconsin, so we need it. This isn't going to be the biggest rainmaker, but we'll take what we can get. I almost think more impactful is going to be the incoming drop in temperatures. So behind this front, temperatures are in the 50s and the 60s. It's really just a small portion of the viewing area that's still pretty warm right now because the front hasn't moved. It's 78 in Milwaukee. Chicago, it's 81. But look at the rest of the state and surrounding areas. I mean, we're talking Minnesota, we're talking Iowa. Everybody, for the most part, has temperatures in the 50s and low 60s. And even parts of our viewing area, as you can see right near that frontal boundary, significantly cooler. So we clearly have some changes on the way, more so starting tomorrow, but bringing you back to the game tonight. Again, if you are planning on heading to AmFam, plan on some showers, maybe some thunderstorms, and that drop in temperature. So at least temps will be pleasant with the fact that the roof will likely stay closed. We've all been in that stadium on a hot day where there's been rain and the roof's been closed and it's slightly unbearable.
Yes.
I'm not expecting that tonight.
That's a good reminder because I was there one game when it was the heat of the summer. The roof was closed because I was like, that's so nice because otherwise I'd be getting wet. But then I was like, actually, I am sweating it up here. So it's good to know that we'll stay dry and we'll feel nice once we're inside AmFam. We might just get wet potentially arriving and leaving.
Yes.
That's
and game 3, by the way, Haley, which is down in Chicago, I believe on Wednesday, weather for that looks lovely. And they don't have the roof,
They don't.
They have to, deal with the weather, but it looks really, really nice. So good news for game 3.
Absolutely. And also good news, honestly, for this weekend. I was going to say, I have a friend who's coming in from Florida, and her big request was that she wanted fall temperatures.
Yeah.
And I was getting nervous, though. I mean, we had record heat last week, but the fall temps will still be here this weekend, right?
They will. It looks beautiful. So apple picking, pumpkin patches, unlike the last 2 weekends, will actually feel the way that they should. And we still have good sunshine in the extended forecast.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so before you leave, I have to ask, because you've now had some short hair for a couple of days.
Yes.
How are we feeling? Welcome to the Short Hair Club.
Thank you. I love it. I think when you came, you inspired me because I think I mentioned I wanted to do this years ago. And just, what was it, last week? I finally, chopped 7 inches off. I love it. It's easy to take care of and maintain, and I think it's a really good look that we'll say you started since you came here and had the perfect length.
I mean, that was really kind of you. I don't think I can take any credit for your haircut, but I do think that it suits you so well. I'm sure our viewers are loving it too. You look great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for giving us our baseball forecast there.
Yeah, no problem.
All righty. And if you are heading out to AmFam, let's take another live look. We'll go right here to AmFam. Again, it's an exciting day for the Brewers and really the Cubs fans. Either way, whatever team you're cheering on, is so cool that they are meeting for the very first time in league history here in the postseason. I think it's so convenient for both teams' fans. I mean, usually you're really only looking at when the postseason is going to be at your home field for the games that you can attend, but here you're an hour and a half away. So if you want to go to Wrigley, you can go to Wrigley. If you want to go to AmFam, you can go to AmFam, and I'm sure it's a pretty good environment inside. I know it got a little rowdy with some fans on Saturday, but for the most part, it's always good to have that little sense of rivalry inside of a baseball stadium as you hopefully cheer on your team as they win. We do actually just want to remind you this postseason that we want to see your baseball photos. So please send us your pics, whatever your Brewer favorite memories potentially are, whether that's you, your kids, your whole family, whether you're at AmFam, watching from home, watching from your favorite space to see the games. Send us your pictures because we want to show them off, both on air and here on Fox Local. Let's actually go through some of these photos really quick. This one was sent to us by April, and these are, of course, her with the racing sausages at Rally Round. First of all, they are so tall. I mean, I knew they were obviously tall. They're hard to run in, but I don't think I realized they were that tall. Look at the sausages compared to April's size. Delaney, did you realize they were this tall?
I know, they're so big compared to her.
Yes.
I didn't really realize until seeing the photo.
Yeah.
I knew they were tall.
I feel like I have more respect for everyone who's ever raced in these now that I understand just the obstacle that they are. But that is a great photo. Thanks for sending us that one, April. And this one's from Osvaldo in South Milwaukee. Oh, it's another group picture, of course, with the racing sausages. He says, having fun with the family, which obviously his family's there in the front, but I like to imagine that the sausages are also part of Osvaldo's family. How cool and fun. I mean, I feel like if you're running, you have to be really, really tall to be in Sausage 5 because you can also see the little face hole that you see through is even taller than the rest of the sausages. That's so impressive. And then Natasha sent us this one. She said, my birthday tailgate on a Father's Day this would have been. See, beautiful weather. Looks like we have good sweatshirt weather, maybe some t-shirt weather, depending on who you are there, but you're outside AmFam having a good time. I think that's also so cool about AmFam is that you're able to tailgate. Obviously, Wrigley Field, if you've never been, is quite literally in the middle of a neighborhood. There is no parking lots that are easily accessible or affordable. So tailgating is not really a thing you would do as a Cubs fan. So I love getting to see this tradition of the Brew Crew. So I want to pull up one more time. If you want to send us your photos, just go ahead and scan that code right there to submit it. Again, we, I promise, are looking at all of these submissions. Every time we see new photos, we grab them, we put them in our various newscasts, we show them here on Wisconsin Live Desk. We are loving getting to highlight your favorite Brewers memories. I know most people are really hoping that we can continue to do this for most of October, but again, we'll see. We'll see if the Brewers take a 2-0 lead or if things get tied up here on the NLDS today. If you're thinking you want to head out to AmFam, there are still some tickets available, certainly on the resale websites. There are also actually some tickets available through the MLB's official website. I was checking it out this morning. Not as much availability, certainly a higher price tag, but they did release a little bit of the extra tickets that I think the team had been holding on to. So if you want to go, I would absolutely check out first. I would look at the MLB's website instead of resale websites. They're usually cheaper. But then also check out the resale website. But what we do know, nosebleeds for the most part, which I think is a harsh way of saying the 400 level. I think 400 level is still a nice seat. You're just a little higher up. Those are sold out. The 200 level is going to cost you between $180 to $300, and then the 100 level, depending on where you're at, anywhere from $200 to $400. But again, if you are really wanting to make sure and see the Brewers this postseason, especially in the NLDS, and you want to do it in Milwaukee, I would do it here tonight with Game 2, which starts at 8:08, because while if there is a Game 5, it would be in Milwaukee. Of course, Game 5 is not guaranteed. This is a best of 5 game series, meaning you just have to win 3 to advance. So if the Brewers were to sweep the Cubs, we would be done by Wednesday. So if you're really wanting to make sure and see them here in Milwaukee this round, tonight is the night to go ahead and do that. Yeah, a lot of really exciting things going on. Actually, I can also pull up our schedule. These are the guaranteed games here. So again, tonight 8:08, and then on Wednesday, which is at Wrigley in Chicago, 4:08 start time. And then Game 4, if there were to be one, also would be in Chicago. Game 5, if there were to be one, would be back here in Milwaukee. Also, Delaney put so many fun graphics in here for us to use. There's a watch party coming up on Wednesday. Of course, you can't go to AmFam on Wednesday. They're not going to be there. The team will be in Chicago. But if you're wanting to still be with some of the Brew Crew and celebrate with other fans, you can head to Davidson Park. They will screen the game in its entirety, which again starts at 4:08. But they have to do it in style. So they're bringing in some food trucks. They're bringing in vendors. They'll have fun tailgate games. That park is beautiful. So what a good setting, even though the Brewers are away, that you guys can still come together and celebrate the Brew Crew. I love October baseball. I can't believe we're in October baseball. I'm like, we're in it now. Wild card done. NLDS, obviously next up NLCS. After that, it's the World Series. So we'll keep our eye on everything. Of course, as a reminder, Coming up at 2:30 all the way until 4, it's a special edition of the Wisconsin Live Desk. Our very own Ted Perry is going to be at American Family Field, getting you everything you need to know before that Brewers-Cubs game, and he'll be there all evening long. So even once Wisconsin Live Desk ends and we go to our traditional 4, 5, 6 p.m. newscast, Ted Perry still got you covered with everything you got to know Brewers-wise. So got a lot of fun things coming up for you. For now, we are going to take another quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but then we'll be back, and I think we'll talk football because the Packers had their bye week, but now we get ready because they'll be back coming up next week. But for now, we'll be back in 2 minutes.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. It is now 2 p.m., which means we're half an hour away from that special Brewers coverage before the NLDS Game 2 tonight at 8:08. But in the meantime, let's talk football. Let's take a live look right here at Lambeau in Green Bay, where the Packers did not play yesterday. They had that Week 5 bye week, so they were off. They were resting up. Some might argue it's a little early in the season to have that bye week. Week 5 is the earliest you can have it. So I know a lot of teams aren't necessarily the biggest fan when it comes to having that first bye week because you don't necessarily need the rest yet. But either way, they got it. So now they will be ready to take on the Bengals come Sunday, which will be here at Lambeau in Green Bay. That's set for 3:25. I know a lot of Packer fans probably very excited to get to cheer on the green and gold again next week. And also, I think the Bengals, knock on wood, you never want to jinx or get too confident. I think it should be a win for the Packers. The Bengals right now, obviously, without their lead quarterback, their main guy, Joe Burrow, out for 3 months with his turf toe injury. So not the best news there. And their second-string quarterback hasn't been off to the best start. They've lost the last 3 games. 37-24 is how they lost yesterday when they faced the Detroit Lions. So hopefully that's good news for the Packers on Sunday. Again, taking on the Bengals at Lambeau at 3:25. which means, Delaney, do you know what time it is?
What time is it?
It's time for a fantasy football update. If you've missed my updates before, this is my very first year doing fantasy football. I've always been nervous. I thought like I didn't know enough about football to play, but I joined this all-female league because one of my friends, like, they needed one more person. You have to have even numbers. She assured me you really didn't need to know anything. And I would encourage everyone to play fantasy. It's actually so much fun, and you truly don't need that much knowledge. You just need to know when your players are injured to remove them, and when they have a bye week to make sure that you're not going to get 0 points in that position, pull someone from your bench. But every week, I like to keep you guys updated on how I've done. Last week was a brutal one because I really needed Monday Night Football to put me over the win, but I was estimated to win with like an 85% chance. But my wide receiver was Tyreek Hill, who got carted off the field with a season-ending injury. I don't want to get too confident, but I have a win probability this week of 87% because I still have my tight end, Travis Kelce, playing tonight, as well as one of my wide receivers is playing tonight. And so I'm currently just 6 points behind the girl I'm playing, but she's played her whole roster. So between those two players, if I get 6 points, which should be so easy, we will win. That would make me 3-2 on the season. Delaney's rooting for my fantasy football league because we've decided that if I win, the money is going to be spent on a pizza party here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, which I think would be so much fun, right, Delaney?
Yeah, that would be a ton of fun.
What's your favorite topping on a pizza?
Ooh, I like pepperoni. What about you?
Pepperoni's fine. I think cheese is usually the way I go, but if I'm getting fancy, I like a barbecue chicken pizza.
Ooh, those are always a good option.
Right?
Yeah.
Which, I'll get you a pepperoni pizza, though, if I win.
Thank you.
Yeah. Delaney loves getting my updates every week, which this time I didn't send you any, which was, like, good.
No updates this week, but you were busy.
Well, normally when I'm updating you, it's because I'm, like, devastated. Like, Tyreek Hill, Joe Burrow, like, my players keep getting injured for months, if not the whole season. So this week was good, but I was busy. I was in New York.
True. It also might be better I didn't get any updates.
Exactly.
No injuries.
No injuries. Like, no news is good news sometimes. That's what they say.
That's true.
Right? I thought so. All right, well, Delaney's going to keep getting things ready for our Question of the Day segment, so I'll pull her off the screen because we love to talk Question of the Day. It is National Badger Day, in case you were wondering, so we'll get to that in a little bit. But I actually wanted to take us back out to D.C. really quickly. We have now entered week 2 of the government shutdown, and I think actually if we go to this stakeout camera here at the White House, I think we might be getting some news as far as the government shutdown from Stephen Miller, who is the White House Deputy Chief of Staff. So let me actually pull this up really quickly and see if we can hear any of his answers about the government shutdown.
So the struggle that's taking place right now is between the lawful exercise of power by the American people through a duly elected government versus the unlawful exercise of street violence in the form of domestic terrorism. So, again, the clearest example of this is when you have ICE officers who are carrying out the statutes and laws of the United States to arrest and remove illegal aliens, who are being subjected to violent attacks in the conduct of their duties. That's an example of illegitimate violence, illegitimate power in the form of domestic terrorism being used to impede the conduct of their official duties. The answer to that in a civilized, modern, civilized society is to use legitimate state power, grand juries, subpoenas, arrest warrants, search warrants, and every other federal power at the disposal of the commander-in-chief to identify and find everybody who is trying to use the real and actual threat of violence to impede the conduct of these federal responsibilities and ensure that they're placed behind bars. I'm not going to give you any advanced information about what these investigations have yielded so far. The Joint Terrorism Task Force has the lead, but they have found that these campaigns, that's not, of course, only against ICE officers. There's also a conversation we're having about the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the 2 attempted assassinations against President Trump, the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO, the attempted assassination of Justice Kavanaugh, which of course had an insane sentence of 8 years. So it's the broader spectrum of political violence, but obviously ICE as an agency has been subjected to a 9-month effort to substitute left-wing violence for the votes of the American people. No federal officer in the conduct of their duties should have to worry about being physically attacked, being physically obstructed, being physically impeded, being doxxed, having a bounty put on them. And the fact that Democrat politicians are trying to normalize this really indicates how far we've gone as a society, that there is not universal condemnation of this organized campaign of violence against ICE officers. Yes.
No, but just a follow-up.
Right.
I don't know of many Democratic politicians who have endorsed these terrible incidences that you just referred to. And I also don't know of any evidence that there's some kind of vast underlying organization funding them. Is that what you're indicating is happening here?
Yes, in fact, we know that it's true. But obviously...
You think Tyler Robinson was being funded by some terrorist organization?
No, what I said was that you asked whether there was some larger criminal conspiracy relating to domestic terrorism in this country. And I said, yes, there absolutely is. Now, of course, Antifa has been designated as a domestic terrorist organization, but it's only one example of many in which we have, it's typically a continuum of violence. It involves both organized doxing, it involves violent threats and intimidation, it involves explicit calls to commit violence against a targeted person, and then that tends to escalate into physically violent and obstructive acts. And so it's this continuum that we see over and over again where they're trying to use illegal violence and intimidation to disturb the operations of the federal government and federal personnel. And we see this playing out over and over and over again.
They? Because Antifa isn't actually an organization, right?
Sir,
yes.
You've spoken several times about how sanctuary city leaders and state leaders, they might face charges for human smuggling and harboring illegal aliens. Also spoke about 8 U.S.C. 1324. And, it's since gotten worse. And today, Brandon Johnson signed an executive order prohibiting use of city property for federal immigration operations.
By the way, that's a great example. On the Brandon Johnson, it's an example of how I was asked the question of, well, do you have any example that this behavior hasn't been condemned by Democrat officials? Well, I can go one better. The mayor of Chicago not only has failed to condemn the violent obstructive acts against ICE and law enforcement, but in the aftermath of 2 coordinated attempted murders of ICE officers through vehicle ramming attacks, he issued a no-go zone for ICE officers. What do we think would happen if, say, under a Democrat administration, Republican officials declared no-go zones for the FBI? What do you think the reaction to that would be? How many people do you think would be arrested and placed into jail over that? And so it's just important to understand these are not isolated incidents. If you can't see, then you don't want to see. In other words, if you can't see that since we've taken office, there has been a organized, systematized campaign to delegitimize, dehumanize, threaten, impede, obstruct, and physically assault ICE officers in their conduct of their duties, then I can't persuade you of it because you're choosing not to see what's right in front of your face.
Do you believe that James Comey should be purple?
Yes, back there, sorry.
Jay Jones has not dropped out of the race for Attorney General in Virginia.
Yes.
He's under immense pressure to do so.
Yes.
He hasn't. Does that surprise you?
Sadly, it doesn't surprise me. Look, what you saw with the Jay Jones comments, and it's a piece of this whole conversation, was the deeply held inner monologue of a high-ranking Democrat. They're someone who rose to the top of the ranks of the Democrat Party. So if you read the text message exchange, it's clear that he talks this way often and frequently. That is his homicidal ideation and his fantasies about elaborate murder and torture is something that clearly he is comfortable with and is doing frequently. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of system is someone operating in where they speak so freely and commonly about, again, elaborate murder plots against people they work with? What kind of system brings somebody up like that and elevates them to the point of nearly being the Attorney General? That's a system that has absorbed this narrative that we see so often, which is that the Republican Party, and in particular that the Trump movement, again, from the Democrat narrative, is basically, this is a term I've seen, is unpersoned, right? That they dehumanize you to the point of not having a right to live. And so we saw this, of course, with the 4 years of lawfare against President Trump and the desire to incarcerate him for life. Then, of course, that kind of eliminationist conduct and rhetoric then leads and gives rise to more violent behavior like attempted assassinations. And now, of course, because so much of this conduct was never punished, over time. Now we see so many Americans, and not all Americans, of course, many foreigners too, who feel very comfortable engaging in direct day-to-day violence against ICE officers. It's a common experience for ICE officers when they're conducting an arrest to be physically assaulted by others while they are carrying out an arrest. So you might be arresting, say, a child pornography illegal alien, and you will get physically assaulted while you're doing it. Now ICE have to worry about getting sniped from rooftops when they're coming and going from their facilities. And we've normalized the idea, not I haven't, of course, and you haven't, but others have, that ICE officers should have to work in a federal building every.
All right, we have been listening. Oh, it keeps doing that, Delaney. Sorry, I don't mean to pull Delaney up, but our double box keeps doing that. We were listening in right there, DC, listening outside the White House, hearing from the Trump administration their response on the treatment of ICE agents, which we brought you earlier, a press conference out of Chicago, which is now seeing the mayor of Chicago kind of create an executive order that does not allow ICE agents on certain city property. I want to get us out to Chicago, or really Illinois right now, where the governor, J.B. Pritzker, is now addressing the media. This does follow a lawsuit that was filed to prevent the National Guard from being allowed in the state, especially in the city of Chicago. So we're going to listen in right here and see what we can learn from Governor Pritzker.
For weeks now, Donald Trump, Kristi Noem, and Gregory Bovino have brought their militarized CBP and ICE agents to the streets of Chicago to cause violence and chaos in this city. They need to stop inciting our city's residents. Since the beginning of this invasion, families have been snatched up off the streets or removed from their homes, zip-tied and detained for hours, including especially U.S. citizens and legal residents of our state. And in the words of CBP Chief Patrol Agent Greg Bovino, they're being chosen by how they look. Peaceful protesters have been hit with tear gas and shot with rubber bullets. Journalists simply reporting the facts on the ground have been targeted and arrested. U.S. citizens, including children, have been traumatized and detained. This escalation of violence is targeted and intentional and premeditated. The Trump administration is following a playbook: cause chaos, create fear and confusion, make it seem like peaceful protesters are a mob by firing gas pellets and tear gas canisters at them. Why? To create the pretext for invoking the Insurrection Act so that he can send military troops to our city. He wants to justify and normalize the presence of armed soldiers under his direct command. I want to take you through the steps that he's taken to follow the playbook and show how it is playing out real time here in Illinois. When I first heard reports of Trump's plan to send armed military troops into our streets, more than 100 elected officials, business leaders, clergy, law enforcement, educators, and community organizations gathered on August 25th to send an unequivocal message to Donald Trump. We don't want troops on the streets of Chicago. There was never an insurrection or an invasion on the ground that justified the deployment of the military to our American city. We stood out there on a beautiful day at River Point Park to make that point. Donald Trump's deranged depiction of Chicago as a hellhole, a war zone, and the worst and most dangerous city in the world was just complete BS. He clearly has decided to declare war on a great American city that has the lowest homicide rate in 60 years, in a state that has record employment and near record tourism. And he's done it for some unspoken reason. I spent the days and weeks following that out and about in our communities, in Bronzeville, in Austin, in Little Village, Berwyn, South Shore, and others, walking and talking and listening to real Chicagoans and local business owners, something Donald Trump Greg Bovino, Tom Homan, and Kristi Noem have never bothered to do. No insurrections, no invasions. The folks in the neighborhoods do not want armed troops marching in their streets. When it comes to public safety, they want civilian law enforcement when they need them, and jobs, and after-school programs for kids in the neighborhoods. They do not want Donald Trump to occupy their communities. Then the Trump invasion began. Since ICE and CBP announced their operations on September 8th, our people have been subjected to violence, intimidation, and harassment. They have struck fear in our communities, including notably fear in the hearts of U.S. citizens. Trump and the thuggery that his agents have brought has actively made us less safe. Less than a week later, on September 12th, ICE shot and killed a man in Franklin Park, a nearby suburb of Chicago. His name was Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. Reports say that he had just dropped his kids off at daycare and was headed to work. Shortly after that incident, ICE issued a statement justifying the killing, saying that the federal agent was seriously injured, sustained multiple injuries, and was dragged a significant distance. Immediately, we were left with more questions than answers. And frankly, the story just didn't add up. I demanded a full accounting into the facts of the situation. The community was rightfully distraught. Even Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum demanded answers. The facts are coming out, and they are raising even more questions. The Chicago Sun-Times obtained body camera footage from Franklin Park PD. The agent said on camera his injuries were nothing major and that he was dragged a little bit. As a reminder, DHS said that the agent was seriously injured, sustained multiple injuries, and was dragged a significant distance. His children, Silverio's children, have now been left without a father, and they and the public deserve to know the truth. There's been zero accountability or transparency from ICE or the administration. Last week, federal agents dressed in camouflage gear conducted a military-style raid on an apartment building in South Shore, a neighborhood of Chicago. They brought Black Hawk military helicopters and more than 100 agents in full tactical gear. Even though it was supposedly a very dangerous and important mission, they brought dozens of cameras and set them up so that they could film their attack on the building in HD for social media. See for yourself.
All right, we've been listening into this press conference here out of Illinois where Governor Pritzker has been addressing the ICE agents that are in Illinois. It's a mission kind of referred to as the Midway Blitz. They've been here now for about a month, and we do know more than 1,000 immigrants have been arrested since this kind of ICE takeover in Illinois. We do know today that Pritzker with the state of Illinois and really the city of Chicago have filed a lawsuit to prevent the National Guard from coming in to Chicago next as part of President Trump's crime crackdown. Before we went to this press conference, we're hearing from one of the members of the Trump administration on some of these attacks against the ICE agents who are here in the city. So hearing kind of both sides of the argument here. Of course, we'll let you know the latest on both Midway Blitz as well as the National Guard and the potential for them to be in the city of Chicago, as well as the lawsuits that were filed today. Certainly a situation there where the governor and the mayor are Democrats and are not wanting any help from Trump or the White House administration there. So it's kind of a big issue. It's kind of a little complicated, but of course we'll bring you all of the updates here on the Wisconsin Live Desk coming out of both Illinois. Of course, any updates out of Wisconsin and any updates out of DC. For now, we are going to just take a quick break. We've got a few minutes left before we go all things Brewers coming up at 2:30. But for now, we'll be back in 2 minutes.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Welcome back into the Wisconsin Live Desk. We just have a few minutes left here in this setting, and then we're taking you out to AmFam till 4. So we still got a ton of coverage for you coming up here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We got to bring Delaney in quickly, though, very fast. She's busy, hard at work, but I wanted to ask her, of course, question of the day. It's National Badger Day. Have you ever seen a badger in real life?
I have not. Have
Yeah,
you?
I have not either. So I Googled what like a badger even looks like. Obviously, the Wisconsin Badgers, they look like Bucky. It's a very well-made mascot, Delaney.
It is.
Yeah.
I've just never seen one in person yet.
Never seen one, and I feel like they wouldn't live up to Bucky. So I don't know how exciting that would be.
Right?
You know? We're speed round doing our question of the day because Delaney, again, really is busy. So true or false, there are 11 species of badgers. That is a lot. I'm going to go false.
This one is true.
Delaney loves a true. There's 11.
There's 11 different species of badgers.
The more you know. And my favorite species is Bucky, the species.
I agree.
I don't think that's really one of them, but that's cool. All right, thanks for doing a very quick round of true or false for us, Delaney. We'll let her go get back to work. I do, of course, in our final few minutes, got to take us back out to AmFam. That is where the Brewers taking on the Cubs tonight in the NLDS Game 2. If you missed it, the Brewers decisively won back on Saturday. I was in New York, and I turned my phone on at an intermission during one of the shows that I was seeing. It was the second inning, and it was already 9-1. So I very quickly turned my phone back off because I'm a Cubs fan and that was brutal. But I'm happy for the Brew Crew. They go into this 1-0 tonight. Of course, our own Ted Perry is going to be there. He's got you covered with everything you need to know. And don't forget that you can send us your pictures. We want to celebrate all of your favorite Brew Crew memories as well, especially if you're heading out to the game tonight, which starts at 8:08. So snap a picture, scan this QR code, send it to us. We love getting to show them off here in the Wisconsin Live Desk, as well as on our newscasts on Fox 6. We have really been highlighting a lot of them. So go out, take a picture, cheer on your baseball team, whether that's the Cubs or the Brewers. It's going to be a good one. Again, Ted Perry's got you covered. Coming up next.